Ever dreamed of trekking up a mountain of sand, watching the sun set over the endless dunes, or standing on the edge of a canyon so deep it almost doesn't seem real? In this 4 part series, I'm diving into Colorado's most stunning landscapes and I'm taking you along for the ride. Get ready for epic views, thrilling hikes, cozy campfires, and charm of hidden small towns you'll want to add to your bucket list. In this series, I'll be traveling with a group from an adventure company, so we get all the thrills without the stress of planning. Imagine being part of this experience, just focusing on journey with a bunch of new friends who are here for the same unforgettable adventure. So stick around, because by the end of the series, you'll have everything you need to plan your own Colorado escape. Starting with part 1, Great Sand Dunes National Park. Let's dive in. I had the most random idea last year and I suddenly booked a trip to Colorado. It's like a girls' trip, pre-organized and camping tour for 6 days. The journey began with an early flight from Boston to Denver. I flew in, excited, but not totally sure what to expect since I'd be camping with complete strangers in the desert. So what could go wrong, right? Once in Denver, I met the group that would be my adventure fam for the trip. If you're on the fence about group travel, here's what you should know. It's amazing to have someone else handles all the detail for a change. Plus, you meet some awesome people from all over who are here for the same reasons. We hopped on our van and set off towards our first campsite. So this morning at around 5 o'clock, I left from my home and I took a flight and reached Colorado at 10. Right now, after driving for 6 hours, I'm at Great Sand Dunes National Park. And look at the horizon, guys. It is so pretty. This is our camping spot and right now I just went to fill in some water. I'm going up to the campsite and I'm so excited for it. I can't wait to show you my tent and everything we're gonna eat and how we're gonna do stuff. So stay tuned for more updates from me. Setting up camp was an adventure in itself. We had pre-chosen a tent partner. It's fun, if a bit chaotic for the first time, and we had 4 people tents, which was big. But by the end of the trip, we were pros in setting up and breaking down the tents. Our guide also shared some tips for smooth setup to make things easier. It'll get pretty dark in another half an hour, so next time that I want to go for restroom or filling the water, I will have to have with me the headlight so that I can see. And our guide told us that there are bears in the woods, so you have to be careful of that, and all the perfumes and any food that smells into a camper van which will be locked and bear safe. So this is Great Sand Dunes Lodge, which has a very good view of the whole Sand Dunes National Park. And this is the trail leading up to my campsite. We got settled in, shared some snacks, and learned a bit about each other. It was so relaxing sitting around, sharing travel stories, and getting tips from our guide on what tomorrow would look like. The next morning, we were up super early for the main event, Great Sand Dunes National Park. It was chilly, but the sunrise was gorgeous and definitely worth crawling out of my cozy sleeping bag. Pro tip, pack layers if you're coming here. Temperature changes fast, which I learned a little too late as always. It is the next morning. Good morning. I'm drinking my morning coffee and I had granola bars for breakfast with some yogurt, and I packed my brown lunches. The scenery here is so nice in the morning. Although I was not facing the sunset, so I couldn't see the sun very clearly, but the lighting, it was chef's kiss. I would say it was pretty cold in the night and I was not prepared for it, so I had to wake up in the middle of the night and put on my jackets and socks, which was not so convenient. But some people say that they heard some animals and wildlife near the tents, which included elks and coyotes, so that's exciting. Even though I didn't get enough sleep because I put my tent on the slope, it was still not bad and I didn't hear any noises, so I slept better than others. There are so many cactuses here, and look at the view. Our first stop was the renting shop, where we rented sandboats and sand sleds. The rental process was really straightforward. Just go to the counter and ask for some sandboats and sand sleds. Our guide had it all planned out. For anyone wondering, sandboats are like snowboards but for sand, and sleds are as well, just like the ones for snow. We were each given some basic instructions and tips on how to ride them by the person at the counter. I was definitely excited, but also a bit intimidated by these boats. Having never tried sand or snowboarding, it was a completely new experience for me. But hey, I'm never one to shy away from trying something new. Sliding down giant sand dunes sounds thrilling, until you realized the real challenge was hiking back up those massive slopes after each run. We got there bright and early around 8:30, which I'd highly recommend if you're planning a visit. Arriving early not only helped us beat the heat, but also meant fewer people on the dunes, giving us all the space we needed to soak in the views and tackle those sandy slopes without the crowd. The hike out to the dunes was no joke. Walking on sand is tough, especially when you're trying to climb uphill. But honestly, the views were incredible. These dunes are like mini mountains of sand surrounded by actual mountains, definitely a unique sight that you won't see anywhere else. Then came the main event, sandboarding. It's not as easy as it looks. The first few runs were a struggle, let's say. There were a few wipeouts, a bit of sand eating, and some laughs from the sideline. But once you get the hang of it, it's such a rush. Sliding down those huge dunes with mountain backdrop is just surreal. I also tried sand sledding, which for me was way easier and just as fun. If you're not up for the balancing act, sledding is a very good option and highly recommended. Just be prepared for sand everywhere for the next week. After a few rounds of sandboarding and sledding, we took some time to just explore the dunes. This park is massive. There's so much open space, and the views are even more impressive when you're surrounded by sand stretching out in every direction. It's almost like being on a different planet. After about 2 hours of rolling in the sand, we got tired and had our lunch at some picnic spots in the state park. It's amazing to think that all these dunes were created naturally over thousands of years. So before heading out, we made a quick stop at the Great Sand Dunes Visitor Center. This place has everything you need to learn about the dunes, from their geological history to the unique wildlife and plants that survive in this extreme environment. It's also a great spot to ask any last-minute questions if you're planning to come back and explore even more trails. They've got a lot of interesting displays here that explains how these dunes were formed over thousands of years. Basically, it's all thanks to wind, water, and time. You can also see some cool artifacts and photos of the area from different times of the year. Plus, the visitor center has some best views of the dunes in the distance, framed by those snow-capped mountains. So, here's a little fun fact about Great Sand Dunes National Park that I learned at the visitor center. These towering dunes, the tallest in North America, were formed over thousands of years by wind blowing sand up against the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The sand here is constantly shifting, creating a unique and mesmerizing landscape like any other. So every time you visit the national parks, the sand dunes change just a little bit. If I have inspired you enough to plan a visit to Great Sand Dunes National Park, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Bring plenty of water, sunscreen, and a hat. The sun can be intense, especially as the sand reflects the heat back up, so staying protected is a key. A good pair of sunglasses and sturdy shoes will help make hiking the dunes much easier. And while extra gears like knees and elbow pads are optional, it's definitely worth considering if you are sandboarding. So would I recommend a trip to Great Sand Dunes National Park? Absolutely. It's such a unique landscape, and the thrill of sandboarding down these massive dunes is an experience you won't forget. That's it for our Great Sand Dunes adventure. Thanks for coming along, and I hope this video gave you a little inspiration to step out and plan your next trip. Hit the like button if you're thinking of giving sandboarding a try, or if you just like my video. And don't forget to subscribe to The Bite-Sized Traveler for more travel stories. Stay tuned for the next Colorado adventure in this series, and as always, I hope this video was a warm hug for you. Until next time, keep traveling!